Okay, so essentially in this one, just wanted to get like familiarized with the actual platform of n8n. So if you haven't seen n8n Masterclass, definitely a good one to get started with if you really like haven't got into this platform at all. But we'll attach the slides down there. It's like an hour and a half long video. We do basically like go over general stuff, a first workflow, look at like the capabilities. But anyways, like I'm sure this is stuff you guys understand by now, but wanted to have this here as reference, I guess, because can sort of consolidate a lot of this into just this video here. So the slides will give you a good setup, right? But anyways, this is what it actually looks like. So you've got like, if you just make an account, you'll have like a start from scratch button and then like maybe a template button. But obviously I have lots of workflows in here, as you can see. Um, you'll have the ability to have projects. So you can, if you're on the starter plan, which is like the $25 a month, or maybe if you do annual, it's cheaper. You'll have projects over here. You'll have like your own testing area, and then just your overview has everything. So you can see your some are in personal, and some will be like Nate testing. I just kind of throw them all in personal now, and then other things. So templates, you can click on this. It'll pull you up into the growing template library from n8n itself. So we've got that. Click out of here. You have variables. So don't want to get into this right now. This is more about setting like these global variables within your environment. And you need to be on pro plan. So not going to talk about that right now. I think it would just be confusing. And yeah, anyways, you have your help section here, which has like, documentation and the forums and all this kind of stuff. You can report your bugs right here. And it is really good about getting back on bug fixes. And then when it comes to actually updating your instance, if you are like cloud hosted, n8n cloud hosted, you'll see here I have 3 updates right now, and you would go into your admin panel right here in order to actually make those updates. So here's where you can see your executions, your active workflows. You can click on open this up, and then this is where you'll basically be able to. Oh, that's actually just opening my workspace. Sorry. But if you come back over to the admin panel, like I said, come into your manage, and then this is where you can like update your instance. You'll hit save changes. It'll have to restart your workspace. And that's how that works, right? Anyways, so besides the actual like just configuring and getting used to the navigation, let's open up a workflow. So each workflow is going to be your own like canvas for an individual process or project that you're working on. And when you've heard either me or other people talk about the fact that you can create workflows as tools and reference them later, you would basically be building out a process in here. So a string of nodes. And what a node is just like a tool. So over here, when you open up some sort of action, this is a node, this is a node. So all of these are just your building blocks that go into creating the full canvas, the full workflow. So anyways, let's say I created a full workflow of like 5 or 6 nodes that basically like looks at your documents, your company documents, and then writes an email and then sends it. That could be one workflow, and then we could later have an agent that realizes, okay, I need to send an email, so I'm going to call this workflow. This workflow is going to take place. It's going to execute, and then basically you don't have to build that function out every single time. You want to build an agent that can send an email. So that's really the power of like the modularity and the scalability of building out these workflows, and then you can call them from an infinite amount. So that's that. But as far as like the actual canvas, you've got your nodes. As you can see, this one right here has a orange lightning bolt next to it, which just means it's a trigger node. So that's what starts the workflow. So if I was to hit test workflow, this one starts it. There's other types of triggers. So there's a whole section in this course dedicated to triggers. But if we click on add first step, it basically says what triggers this workflow. A trigger is a step that starts your workflow. You can do manual, which we just did. You can do on chat message, where we talk to whatever it is in this workflow. Like if you see here, we now have a chat trigger, and we can open up the chat window and say hello, and then that's going to start the workflow. And then in here we have the message that we just sent, which was hello. So we have that sort of option. You also have triggers that are launched from something external. So we could do like on an app event. So we could say, I guess the default example I usually go with is Telegram. So we could basically have all these triggers on post to a channel, on a poll change, on all this kind of stuff. We could do on a message. So let me actually open up my Telegram real quick. I'm not sure if you guys probably won't be able to see this window, but if we hit test step, and in my Telegram I say hello, we'll get this message right there. So that's like what starts the workflow. This could also be looking for events within something like your website or your CRM, where we could basically be using oh, what's going on here? We could be using something like a webhook. Starts the workflow when the webhook is called. So we would basically just configure our website or our app to send information to this address whenever something happens, like if you get an email there, or if someone cancels their subscription or anything like that, it can be fired off to this workflow, and then you can have it like do whatever you want based on this trigger. So there's that, or there's basically like those built-in webhooks, which would be sort of something like a, let's look at like a Google Drive. Um, where's Google Drive? Am I blind? Google Drive. So on changes to a specific folder or on changes involving a folder. So if you throw a new file into a specific Google folder, it's going to start the workflow. So that's like what those look like, right? You have all these different apps, as you can see. There's all of these different integrations for triggers. You've got on a schedule, so you can say, hey, at noon every day or at midnight every day, I want this to run. And then this is the powerful one when executed by another workflow, where I said we could set up this workflow to be called by any of the other ones, and then it would hit this trigger. So like I said, don't want to go too into that right now. Just want to delay the groundwork. So triggers, right? And then from there, I'm just going to pull back in a manual trigger real quick. From there, you have your different actions. So like what happens next? Do you want to do an advanced AI node? Do you want to take action in a specific integration? So here are the different apps we could integrate with. If there's not an integration in these apps, what you can do is you can connect to pretty much any app with an API endpoint with an HTTP request. If you don't understand what this is or API endpoints, we have a classroom in the section, or a section in the classroom about APIs, HTTP requests, a deep dive on that, what they are, how they work. But essentially, it just means that we're connecting to something outside of n8n. So in n8n, we have all these functions, but if we want to connect to something like Gmail or Salesforce or Supabase, anything like that, right? Anything that's outside of our internal n8n, we have to hit their API endpoint. So these are all built-in n8n integrations where we could just click on something, and we click on the function we want and set up this little configuration. And all of these are just HTTP requests that are wrapped up in a nice way for us. But that just gives us the functionality of being able to hit anything. So we've got that, right? Action in an app. We have our advanced AI, of course, where we can talk to OpenAI, basically ChatGPT. We can talk to AI agents. We can do information extractor nodes, summarization chains. So these are like the main AI nodes. And then we also just have like our sort of in-house n8n data transformation nodes, which is anything like you can run custom code, or you can filter things, you can limit things, you can remove duplicates, you can combine items. So these are more of your like typical workflow, no code, low code workflow tools that basically let you do things that are just kind of internal functions. You know, you can join data sets, you can aggregate stuff. And so there's also a section in here kind of about the core nodes and what those do, because one thing about like, even if you're coming into n8n with like a background in workflow automation, you still have to get you still have to get used to what nodes you actually have access to and what they do, because that's like the most intimidating part when you have like hundreds of nodes to choose from and you don't know which one's the most optimal one to use. So there's that, right? You also have like data transformation, but then we have flow nodes, which can change like the way the data is flowing. So we can do things like loop through, we can do like ifs, we can route off information different ways. You have other things down here, like you can actually make the workflow wait. So we can have it wait here for 5 seconds and then continue on. Flow nodes, we've got like errors. This is how you could call another workflow. Like I said, you can have this workflow call a different one by using this tool. And this is where you choose like, what workflow do I actually want to call? So that's how you can set up that kind of stuff, right? You've got some new human in the loop nodes, so I won't get into that right now, but then all this kind of stuff. And also you can have a workflow can be added by multiple triggers. So we could say, I want to test this manually, or I want to chat with it, or I want to like have a webhook call it. So we can have these 3 hook up to the same flow, so that if we want to get in here and test, we can test manually, we can test by chatting, or we could just have the actual active webhook, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, so that's pretty much like the main stuff, right? From there, let's see, there's other things like, there's a big difference between creating automated workflows, creating AI powered workflows, and then creating AI agentic workflows. So that's the next step from here, really. But anyways.